Welcome. I've finally been able to calculate the price of the Model 3 in Australia for all states and territories. Who's the most expensive? Who's the cheapest? That and more after this. Welcome, my name's Chris, and hey, if you're a returning subscriber, thanks for your continued support. And if you're new, welcome. Consider subscribing. Put 2 or 3 videos out a week. Yeah, no spamming. Just hopefully good quality content. So, a few weeks ago, I put out this Model 3 calculator for Victorians only. Well, you could do it for anywhere in Australia, to be honest, but at the end of the day, it was only calculating for like stamp duty and all that sort of jazz for people who lived in Victoria. But now I've actually got all of Australia in, so no matter where you live, from Hobart to Darwin, Perth, Sydney, you name it, you can actually find out probably most likely how much the Model 3 is going to be. So a few little notes that I need to actually say to you, and hey, well, before I go any further, good news. Elon Musk tweeted just the other day that right-hand drive will most likely start deliveries from June this year through to probably August, September. That will well mean that we'll start seeing them hopefully in Australia September, October, November. This is really good news. So watch this space. But little side notes for those who know Tesla and how they work with the distribution. Firstly, in America, when they released the Model 3, anybody who was already a Tesla owner, that is, they had an S or an X, they got first priority. So those who were on the reservation list, S and X, you got your car first. Then they dealt with the rest. Next up, they started deliveries in Europe. Now, over there, and I think I might be wrong, but I think I'm right, they actually abandoned the whole thing of the reservations, and they just opened them up to all the territories that they delivered to in Europe. And that was very surprising, and I'm curious, like, is that really what happened? And if it is, if you were a Model 3 reservation owner in Europe and you watch this, can you let me know? Because I'm be very interested, because I believe the same thing happened in China. They first of all started with reservation holders who already are Tesla owners, and then within a month they opened it up to all of China. Go figure. Anyway, right-hand drive soon, deliveries, how they're going to work in Australia, bit unsure. Depending where you look on the interwebs, Reddit's always a fun one to look at, by the way. There's an estimated 7,500 to 8,500 people, yours included, who are actually waiting on the Model 3. Now, as we've seen with the European and China deliveries, they're actually batching them in a big ship, dropping off a few thousand at a time. So if they distribute a few ships to Australia, it won't take them very long to actually get them out to us and on our roads. So that'll be really exciting to see when it happens, eh? And the next important thing to know is that Tesla actually deleted the mid-range model. Now, people saw this coming because, well, there was no $35,000 model, and well, since they've introduced it, the pricing between that and the base plus and then the long range, it just doesn't fit in that price sort of scale anymore. So it's no surprise that it's actually disappeared from menu. In Australia, we've actually been fortunate, and for those American colleagues out there, don't get jealous, but typically Teslas in Australia actually include all variants, all trims, and you can like modify your Tesla really, really nicely. So I'd be curious to see when they do start deliveries in Australia as to whether or not that will return as a menu item for us Aussies. Okay, so first up, who has got the most expensive priced Model 3 that we could do? So I'm talking here, performance model, red, white interior, autopilot, and full self-driving or hands, whatever they call it. Who do you reckon? Any guesses? It's WA, and it's coming at you at $128,778. Oh, all right. So start giving a bit of a tour of this spreadsheet. So for those who are new, basically go down below. There's some links to a Google Doc or a Dropbox Excel file. Download your own copy of it or make a copy. There's instructions at the top of the spreadsheet here, right up here. So instructions for Google or for Excel people. Follow that, okay? Then you just come down and you configure how you want your car to be. So as I said in the start of the video, I've now actually got in here all the different parts of Australia, and that will then modify the price. And the variable here is stamp duty. And can I just say, people in Australian Capital Territory, what the? You don't have to pay stamp duty on a car? That's because you've got politicians there, isn't it? And it's kind of like an EV incentive type thing. It's not an EV incentive thing, is it? It's because... Anywho, so if you're that sort of person who likes looking in the back end of things, yeah, I said it. All you need to do is just go down here to the data tab, and you can see all the shenanigans that's going on from the American pricing and stats, and then that then gets converted into Australian dollars. So today the US to Australian dollar conversion rate was 1.41, so put that in there if you want to actually change that up a bit. And then all the little magic things happen. Just look at this coming down. ACT, stamp duty, 0, yes. And the most expensive one is New South Wales. And there's a lot of variables here. Every state has got its own thing. And oh my gosh, getting the equations right for this was super challenging, especially I think in South Australia, where they've got like literally from 0 to 1,000, 1,000 to 2,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. Oh my, it was a mess, absolute mess. I did it. And you can thank me later. But it's, as you can see there, little side note, when you're ordering a car in Australia, the driveway price basically starts with you putting all the features that you want on the car from the factory. So when you add the wheels, the paint, and all the software, that all then gets affects your stamp duty and your GST and your luxury car tax. So if you're thinking aftermarket might save you money, it actually might, because as soon as you get above that threshold of 75,000, whatever it is, you start paying luxury car tax. So you're paying a tax on a tax on a tax. Not good. Oh, anyway. Let's go back to the configurator, shall we? Going to do my little dream car now. In fact, no, before we do that, let's do a base model and find out who's got the cheapest base model. And, well, I think I've already given away, haven't I, the ACT, because they've got no stamp duty. But who's the next up for the cheapest base model? So all you do is change everything back to whatever you need it to be. So we're going to go for the black paint because that's free. No autopilot. Okay, so who do you think has got the cheapest Model 3 in Australia next to the ACT? Anybody? Somebody? It's Queensland at $57,559. Very nice. That's actually a pretty competitive price. Like the Ioniq is between 50 and 55k, and the Kona is probably about 55 to 60k. So that's firmly in the middle there, and has got very similar range to both, but it's a lot faster. And in terms of interior fit and finish, I would suggest it's well, it's a hard one actually, because they bring out these new EVs like in Australia on the high trim level. So the Nissan's announced that it's one trim level, and that's a high spec one. Hyundai is doing the same thing essentially. They're going for a premium elite variants. So you get your ventilated seats, heated seats, steering wheel, climate control, traffic aware cruise control, lane keep assist, you name it. It's very competitive pricing. So yeah, but nonetheless, for a few $1,000s more, you're moving from a everyday brand to what I'd say is a luxury car brand. And then if you're thinking about that against, let's say, a BMW Series 3, that would set you back, which is $74,900. But let's face it, the Tesla Model 3 will be cheaper long term because of like $1,500 per year in fuel savings, as well as a quicker 0 to 100k per hour speed. And well, you know, autopilot is just far superior on Teslas. It's undeniable. So that said, what about my little dream Tesla? Okay, here we go. Ready? $78,000. And so to me, that's pretty compelling, and if it arrives at that price, great. But remember, Tesla used to actually include, you know, like separate out on the Model S and X for Australian buyers $3,000 shipping price, but now it's hidden somewhere, and I think it's actually in the price of the car. So I'm just curious if the prices we're seeing now will actually have to having added on to them a $3,000 extra for that shipping costs, and in which case this is suddenly now $82,000 car. Yikes. All right, but watch this space. We'll see what happens. Hopefully they'll do what they did with China, and when there was that trade war going on, well, basically probably is still going on. What's the date? What's Trump and the other guy doing? Anyway, essentially what Tesla did was they discounted the cars over there by about $4,000 to even $10,000 American, and that was to try and keep them competitive price-wise, so that the orders kept coming through. So yeah, fascinating. Okay, so that's enough for this video. If you've enjoyed it, please give me a huge thumbs up. Write me down a comment below. I'd like to hear from you. What are you actually thinking about buying yourself? Or like, is it going to be the base plus? Remember that mid-range might not get to Australia. We'll see. And well, hopefully we'll start seeing Model 3s in Australia by the end of this year. It could really be like early 2020. Just don't hold your hopes up. Anyway, be good and be kind to the environment.